He talked a lot about the situation with Iran, talked a little bit about Ukraine and what's going on in Europe. I'd gotten a few text messages from him, but I hadn't spoken to him. So it was good to hear his voice. Voice sounded strong and sounded like he was keeping up with the news to me.
If Scott Jennings and Thune and everybody else could have a 20-minute phone call with Mitch McConnell, he should be able to shoot a 60-second proof of life video to show us that he's okay. I think they know the deadline for a special election is August 3rd. If he's dead or if he's on a ventilator, if he's not able to do his job, he should resign right now. They should have a special election.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Grab a seat because this one is going to get your attention. So here is what is going on. Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell has now been in the hospital for more than 3 weeks, and his office still has not told the public what is actually wrong with him. All we have gotten are a few vague statements saying he is recovering and appreciates the support, while the real details stay locked away. Now the Senate's top 2 Republicans have reportedly spoken with him privately, yet the rest of us are left completely in the dark about whether an 84-year-old senator who is already set to retire in January is even well enough to return to work. And in a panel that gets genuinely heated, the table breaks down whether a public official owes voters the truth about their health or whether the silence is just business as usual. Stick with me all the way through, because the back half is where this conversation really catches fire and the strongest points land. And I would love to know where you are tuning in from today, so drop your city or country in the comments. It always amazes me how far this community reaches. All right, let's get into it.
Senator Mitch McConnell has been hospitalized for 3 weeks, still unclear why or when he'll be released, and yet some MAGA voices demanding, quote, proof of life. Here's an example. Laura Loomer posting, high-level source close to the White House tells me, quote, Mitch McConnell is officially brain dead and he's not coming back. We're hearing these pundits talk not just about his potential health, but what they think the issue is, a special election deadline.
Yeah, look, Audie, if you were hadn't been on air for 3 weeks and there was no answers where you had gone, probably CNN would be interested to know what was going on with you.
Although Reddit would say thank you.
Sure, maybe. Yeah. I think the same would be true of me, probably for you guys too. Mitch McConnell is entitled to private information about his health, but he is a public official. He is the taxpayers of Kentucky and of the federal and of the country, because he's a federal employee, are entitled to know what's going on.
Isaac, this is the second Republican who we've had these medical mishaps, if you will, missing in action. And I just think that from the party who claims transparency and accountability, we should just know more when these situations pop up. We had a member of Congress who was missing in action for months, and we didn't hear anything. We later learned depression. Now we have Senator McConnell. If this were Democrats, Republicans would be wetting their diapers about accountability and responsibility.
They are.
Well, it's just interesting because I am old enough to remember the Biden years where we had our Secretary of Defense absolutely AWOL, went out for a surgery for I think 3 weeks. We had the President of the United States obviously suffering from some type of mental affliction and suffering.
Do you have medical proof of that?
Well, I saw it on TV. I saw it with my own eyes.
Hold on,
but we were guessed and told that he was at the top of his game.
We're going to give the last word to Lloyd Austin, who you just mentioned, because back in 2024, he answered questions about this, and this is a great way to end the show. Here is the lesson he took away from being private about your health and not telling the public.
I don't think it's news that I'm a pretty private guy. I never liked burdening others with my problems. It's just not my way. But I've learned from this experience. So taking this kind of job means losing some of the privacy that most of us expect. The American people have a right to know if their leaders are facing health challenges that might affect their ability to perform their duties, even temporarily.
And later on testified before Congress that there would be changes made to notify the chain of command as well as the public. There is a way for Congress and lawmakers to deal with this. They have not chosen to.
It is a very strange thing to be in this position where it's been years of this with Mitch McConnell. These moments where he's just not saying anything in response to questions, where Mitt Romney, I think it was, who said something along the lines of, you know, we may lose him for 20 seconds, but he's there for the rest of the time. Like, why are we doing this?
Well, we
what
literally
is the deal
saw
with the
it on
gerontocracy?
camera. I mean, he froze a few times. Look, you know, old man time is coming for all of us, right?
Yes.
Let's not pretend that 84 years old is not an advanced age. Why are we pretending as if at some point he has to make a decision about whether he is capable of doing his job and that his constituents deserve to know that?
Okay, let me just start here, because this is the story that tells you everything about how one party treats accountability when it is their own guy in the hospital. A sitting United States senator has been gone for 3 weeks, and nobody outside a tiny circle can tell you why. And instead of demanding answers, some of the loudest voices online decided to invent a horror movie. Audie Cornish reads out this post, where someone claims a source told them Mitch McConnell is officially brain dead and not coming back. Think about how reckless that is. You do not know the man's condition, so you just broadcast the darkest possible version to millions of people? That is not journalism. That is not even curiosity. That is content. And here is where Edward Isaac Dovere lands the point that actually matters. He said this: Mitch McConnell is entitled to private information about his health, but he is a public official. That is the whole ballgame right there. You have to understand, nobody is saying he has to live stream his medical chart. What they are saying is that the taxpayers of Kentucky, the people paying his salary, deserve to know if their senator can still do the job he was elected to do. Then, Antjuan Seawright says the part that made me sit up. He points out that if this were Democrats, Republicans would be wetting their diapers about accountability. And you know he is right. We have watched this exact movie before with the roles reversed, and the outrage machine ran at full volume. Now, silence. But the moment that truly exposed the whole game is when Terry Schilling tried the classic pivot. He starts talking about a president suffering from some mental affliction, and the second someone asks him, "Do you have medical proof of that?" he folds instantly and admits he saw it on TV. He saw it on TV. That is your evidence? That is the part people do not realize matters so much.
I totally agree. I think the longer you wait to put out the quote unquote proof of life, I think the worse it is. It creates a whole lot of conspiracies. My guess is he's calculating, or his office is calculating, he's not running for re-election. He's only got a few more months in office. There are implications that come with anyone deciding it's time for him to step aside at this point. And I just think they don't want to deal with that. The other issue is we don't know actually what's wrong with him. We should. But I imagine, at least based on that 911 call, that it was some sort of heart issue. He might have been on a ventilator, which is going to cause some issues. And he's probably not sounding the strongest. And he doesn't want to go on camera and put that out there. Like, I'm sensitive to that. I think it's responsible.
In the same way that I told you that I said the Plattner staff, campaign staff wants to stay employed, the McConnell staff wants to stay employed for the next 6 months, right? He's scheduled to retire, I guess, January of 2027. But I do think the key issue here is transparency. And let's remember that this is coming just a few days, weeks after the whole Tom Keene Jr. disappeared for 3 months episode that we knew nothing about, his constituents knew nothing about. I think that if you are in public service, I think that if you are in elected office, you owe your constituents and your voters transparency and an explanation if you are going to be missing and absent from your job, which requires taking votes for this kind of extended period of time.
Let me just to dovetail off this, a viewer question came in just to this point who asks, aren't there congressional rules about your health and your viability to do your job? And I guess what all of this has shown us is no. No.
There aren't.
Actually, unfortunately, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, but there ought to be.
But there ought to be, but we've had 3 Republican members of Congress in the last couple of years who've just disappeared and nobody seems to care. Kay Granger was put in a assistance facility for people dealing with dementia in 2024. Nobody noticed that she was gone. Keene was gone for months, came back and blamed it on depression. I'm not entirely sure I believe that story. And the same thing, I don't believe the story with Mitch McConnell right now.
Why don't you believe the depression story?
I mean, he may have...
with respect on that, because there's so much stigma attached specifically to...
Yeah, and look,
as somebody who's men coming forward and talking about that.
I have personally dealt with depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation, but I'll tell you what, if I didn't show up to work for 4 months, I would have been fired.
This is not a job that gets fired like that.
Yeah, but it should be. It should be, though, and he'll hopefully get what's coming to him in November for not being transparent with folks.
You know what blows my mind? The people defending this silence keep acting like transparency is some unreasonable ask when the panel lays out exactly why it is not. Jason Rance nails the psychology of it. He said this: the longer you wait to put out proof of life, the worse it is, because it creates a whole lot of conspiracies. And that is what people miss. The secrecy is not protecting anyone. It is feeding the exact rumors that were just being read out loud. Every day of silence pours gasoline on the fire. And here is what really gets me. Ana Navarro cut straight to the principle. She said this: "You owe your constituents transparency and an explanation if you are going to be missing from your job." That is not a partisan attack. That is the basic contract of public service. When you ask people to trust you with a vote in the Senate, you cannot then vanish for weeks and treat the public like they are being nosy for asking where you went. Then comes the part that honestly frustrated me the most. A viewer writes in asking whether there are congressional rules about your health and your ability to do the job. And Abby Phillip has to deliver the bad news. She said this: "Unfortunately, you can do whatever you want." Let me break down why that matters. There is no mechanism, no guardrail, nothing that forces accountability. A senator can be completely absent and the system just shrugs. And Mike Nellis brings it back down to earth in the most human way possible. He said this: "If I did not show up to work for 4 months, I would have been fired." That is the double standard in one sentence. Regular people lose everything for missing a week. Powerful people miss months and get protected.
But on the McConnell thing, I also don't buy this either. If Scott Jennings and Thune and everybody else could have a 20-minute phone call with Mitch McConnell, he should be able to shoot a 60-second proof of life video to show us that he's okay. I think they know the deadline for a special election is August 3rd. If he's dead or if he's on a ventilator, or if he's not able to do his job, he should resign right now. They should have a special election.
So, okay, but why can't they just say, he had this condition, he's on the mend, he's improving, whatever it is, whatever it is, if it is in fact that, shouldn't they just be able to just say, here's what happened to him, he's improving, we're hoping he gets out of the
Abby,
hospital
nobody
soon.
believes.
Why,
Mitch
I'm just saying,
McConnell is improving.
I am just saying,
we
why
have
won't
seen
they
a
say
steady
that?
decline in the man for years.
I'm just saying that is an option that is available to them, and they are not taking it. They have issued a statement that is almost a month old, basically saying that thank you for your support is what it says.
Yeah, and I think it's wholly unacceptable. I think that the tweets we've seen today about these 20-minute phone calls, that everyone has a 20-minute slot. I guess if I was calling someone who was, out of commission for a few weeks, I would not ask them about the war SCOTUS. I'd probably say, how are you doing? But it seemed like a weird talking point that kind of came out for a lot of people on social media. And actually, I do agree with Mike's point. The representative who was out for a few months with depression, that is a serious condition that a lot of people struggle with. But when you take on a role like being a member of Congress, you do kind of have to sacrifice a level of privacy, number one, so people know where you are at all times, what you're doing. And two, if you are unable to execute the duties of your office for 3 months, you might want to consider taking a step back for your own mental health and also for your constituents. People put a lot of trust in people that they vote for. And so for McConnell, for this representative, for Kay, who just gets dropped off in a dementia home, none of that was acceptable for any of their
and we should point out
constituents.
that there have been a lot of people in Congress that have been dealing with health issues that have been transparent about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fetterman, McCain, when he was out with
Fetterman
glioblastoma.
eventually, because initially he was
Senator Lujan from New Mexico, who had a stroke. I mean,
Right, and then people are
can
okay
I
with those
also
things.
say, look, there was at least one Democrat who died in office.
There's been multiple
recently.
Democrats that have died in
multiple.
office.
So I mean, look, some people I guess decide that they just want to hold on to their seats until they die, but the constituents deserve, frankly, better than that. We'll have to leave it there.
Here is the argument that I cannot get out of my head, and it is the one that should end this entire debate. Mike Nellis lays it out perfectly. He said this: "If Scott Jennings and everybody else could have a 20-minute phone call with Mitch McConnell, he should be able to shoot a 60-second proof of life video to show us that he is okay." And I want you to really sit with that, because it is devastating. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot have your allies out there bragging about their cozy phone calls while simultaneously claiming the man is too unwell to record one short clip. One of those things is a lie. That contradiction is the whole story. And when someone suggests the office could just release a simple update saying he is on the mend, Ana Navarro shuts that door hard. She said this: "Nobody believes improving. I have seen a steady decline." And that is the trust that has already been burned. When you spend years dodging and freezing and saying nothing, people stop taking the reassurances at face value. But here is the moment that genuinely got to me, and it is bigger than any one senator. Brianna Lyman brings up Kay, who she says just gets dropped off in a dementia home, and nobody even noticed she was gone. Let that sink in. A member of Congress, entrusted with real power, disappeared into a care facility, and the system did not blink. This is not a new problem. Remember, this is the same institution that had members serving well into severe illness for decades, hidden from the public, because there has never been a real standard. We just keep hoping people will do the right thing on their own, and they keep proving they will not. So when Abby Phillip closes it out by saying the constituents deserve, frankly, better than that, she is not being dramatic. She is being obvious. The people who hand you power have every right to know if you can still carry it. That is not too much to ask. It is the bare minimum. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.